What role should phones play in the classroom? With the increase that students have with cell phones, it's important to examine how teachers view cell phones in their classroom. Biology teacher Julie Schills explains the phone policy that she has in her classroom. Do you think phones are a distraction in the classroom?
Yes,
Why do you think this?
because I watch my students stare at their phones and not listen to me when I'm going through stuff and have to tell people to put it down, put them away all the time.
How do you think this impacts the students' learning?
They're missing a lot of what I'm saying, and even if they think that they're listening or that they're half listening, they're not getting the full what they're supposed to be getting out of it, and they're not fully engaging and thinking about extending their thinking beyond just what I'm saying.
What's your phone policy in your class?
Well, it started out really, really tough. Like, you couldn't have them out at all. If I saw them, I would take them. But it just, as I've, talked with other teachers as well, it's just too hard to keep up with that. And it's just a constant, like, I already have enough going on with trying to teach and, meet all my kids' needs and things like that. And having that as an added task is just too much. So I just kind of, if I see a kid just glued to their phone and not doing anything else, then I'll still ask them to put it away and sometimes take it. But I just kind of leave it up to the kids to manage.
When did phones start to become a problem in your classes?
Probably a little over 10 years ago. I remember my very first year in 2009, the iPhone was a thing, but not many people had them. And I remember phones, people had phones, but not many people were on them. But then within the next few years, they got worse and worse and worse. And now, especially now with social media and just new apps and platforms and things like that, the last 5-8 years have been really bad.
What do you think is the best way overall to deal with them?
To not have them in the classroom at all.
Do you think the school should have a stricter policy?
Yeah, I wish that they did. And I know I don't know all of the different things involved, and I know, I wish that the school had a tougher policy. I know a lot of people are like, well, what about the middle school? The middle school just has 0 phones at all, and if they see them out at all, they're taken, and that works really well for middle school. But then I know high school is a little bit different, and students have other obligations that they need to come up with, or they need to keep up with. But yeah, I do wish that the school had a more overall policy to support teachers.
What do you think will be the future of phones in the classroom?
I don't know. Like I said, I've been I started my teaching career when phones kind of started to become really mainstream, and especially within a few years, smartphones especially. And I don't know. I feel like it kind of can't get worse than it already is. So I feel like there's got to be different ways to manage phones and just help the kids. Yeah, I don't know. Help the kids figure out how they're going to manage having a phone while also trying to do what they're supposed to do, because that's also just part of life too. You need to be able to focus on what you're doing even as an adult or in college, and so I don't know. It's a hairy issue.
What is something that you hope kids think about when they're deciding whether to just be on their phone and not pay attention?
I would hope that they're just I don't know, the adolescent brain is not, I don't think, equipped to deal with thinking about all of the things that are impacted by being on their phones. But so I wish that they would just realize that they have all the time in the world outside of class to do what they want to do on their phones, and just to try to get the most out of what they're, the present, what they're doing in class. And even, like I said to my students at the beginning of the school year, even if they don't want to necessarily aren't super excited about what's going on with the curriculum in that class, then take the opportunity to engage with their peers more and not just stare at their phone.
As recent research has shown, phones are a large distraction in the classroom as they consume students' attention and keep them from absorbing useful information. They can be most harmful if students are getting constant notifications that keeps them obsessed with their device and keeps them from paying attention. Many teachers don't even want students' phones on their desk or table because they will only focus on their device and tune out of class. French teacher Kyle Sweeney lays out her philosophy on phones. What is your phone policy and why?
I use what's technically the school policy, where there's no phones in the classroom, and if I see a phone, I just put it at my desk, and then the student gets it back at the end of the hour. I find that in my class, students don't need their phone for anything. I think some teachers do use them, but I don't. Students can use their Chromebooks for anything they need the internet for or any resource. And they turn out to be too much of a distraction, even when they're just on the desk if the student isn't using it. Like as phones became more used, I've done a little research and tried to keep up with it on just like the amount that the brain thinks about the phone and the things on the phone when even it's nearby. So for me, that's reason enough to not have them around.
Why do you think that why do you have this policy to impact students?
Yeah, I want students to be as present as they can. It truly makes learning easier for them, and they can get more out of the class. And also, I think, I don't know, it's strange to find out that there's no other time that my students don't have their phones, basically in their hand or pocket. And so I think that's also a positive effect.
How long have you had this policy?
Basically as long as phones have existed.
So how long has that been?
Maybe my whole teaching career, I guess. I started teaching in 2007, so not everyone not everyone had a smartphone back then, I think, so they weren't as distracting, but yeah, I've never allowed them in the classroom.
What do you think is the overall best way to deal with phones in the classroom?
I think that the policy that I use is a good one. It would be much easier and more effective if all teachers did that. I know teachers have their reasons for not using that. That is the policy written in the school handbook. But school level, I don't know if it would be a good idea for us to ban phones completely as they do at the middle school, because I do think high schoolers have more of a maturity and a self-control about it, and could get used to just not using them in class and only using them during passing time. And high school students need their phones a lot for work, for contacting their family. They have a lot more responsibilities. So I don't think banning phones completely from the school, AM to PM, would be a better way.
What do you think the future of phones in the school is?
I don't know. In my opinion, I kind of hope that we turn kind of away from the phones and people practice having the time without them. That becomes kind of more normalized. I think I've read a little bit about universities and how they're dealing with technology and especially AI tools that students are using and how they kind of have to go back to pencil paper for exams. So I hope there's a balance of useful technology use, and obviously phones are very useful. There's so many tools and resources and apps and things that help kids learn, but I hope we can find a balance and use them when appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. And the last question: do you think phones will get better, or worse, in the next couple years?
I don't know how it could get much worse. Most of my students say that I'm the only teacher that doesn't let them use their phone. So I think that's pretty, I don't know how it could get any worse than that. If most, 6 out of 7 class periods, students are able to use their phones.
As both teachers said, they think phones are a large distraction and have absolutely no place in the classroom. As for the future of phones, Only time will tell if the problem will ever truly be solved or if we will continue to be stuck with this wild obsession forever.